Alrighty, so welcome to the last installment of the 2025 ION webinar series. We really appreciate having a few farmers on the call this evening to share their experiences with organic transition and just what's going on their farms generally. We hope you come prepared with questions. This meeting is recorded and will be posted to the Purdue Extension YouTube channel after this event has concluded. I want to acknowledge my colleague Brian Overstreet, who's on the call helping to moderate today. He's part of the Conservation Cropping Systems Initiative and also Purdue Extension, and he is working with me on the Indiana Organic Network project. So right as we're getting started here, I'm going to share a couple of slides with you from a partnering organization that we've been working with in the last couple of months. So Marble Seed and the Midwest Transition to Organic Partnership Program are offering a webinar series. Let me see if I can get this to run correctly. So Transition to Organic Partnership Program is a USDA NOP program that has infused some money into organizations around the Midwest and other parts of the country to help support organic transition and organic networking. And Marble Seed is known for one of its mentorship programs where mentors and mentees are afforded the opportunity to work together and work through some of the issues that mentees might be facing as they're going through organic transition. So I just wanted to share that the mentor mentee program is available here in Indiana as well as other parts of the Midwest, and you can visit Marble Seeds website to find out more about that. You can apply through organictransition.org to learn more about that program. So if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to direct your questions to the folks over at Marble Seed, and they can help get you all the information you need to get signed up either as a mentor, and you can get paid to do that, or as a mentee, where you can learn from folks who are very qualified and very experienced in organic farming and organic transition. So we'll stop sharing that there. Let's see if there's anybody. I don't see anybody in the waiting room at this time, so I think we will go ahead and roll. Brian, let me know if you see any emails or any communication from anybody who's having trouble joining the call. But we will go ahead and get rolling here. So we are joined by Jim Jacobs, Shane Meyer, and Levi Hazelman, all three Ohio farmers. And it's always good to get some cross-pollination from folks who are in different states and have different perspectives on how organic transition has worked on their farms and just kind of what's going on their farms generally. So we're going to start by just discussing each of your three farms and maybe something that makes each of your farms unique. So I'm going to start with Shane. So just tell us a little bit about your farm and something that makes it unique.
Sure, Ashley, thank you. Um, so I'm in Northwest Ohio. I'm kind of southwest of Bowling Green. Uh, we actually run a split operation. So about 80% of our operation is still conventional. 20% of it is organic. We started strip tilling back in 2007 and became very progressive with that. And as time came on, I guess I was looking for another headache, so I decided to get into organic. But no, on a serious note, I took advantage of a wet year in 2019 to transition some acres from preventative plant. And from there, that's about it. It's a rather small farm. And we're just shy of 600 acres in total between the two operations.
Thanks for that overview, Shane. I'm going to throw it to Jim next.
Thanks, Ashley. So I am in Napoleon, Ohio, directly between Toledo, Ohio, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. We cover about 350 acres of all organic row crops. We've grown corn, wheat, soybeans, sunflowers that you see behind me, canola, edamame. Yeah, that wraps it all up. But we're on year number 10, I believe, of course, the transition to organic and then then once we made it fully organic, this should be 10 years of the same management practices. I wouldn't say that I have anything super exciting or unique about my farm. Just trying to get better at what we do every day.
Thanks, Jim. And last, we have Levi.
Yeah, so thanks, Ashley. I am in Northwest Ohio also. I am just west of Findlay, about 15 miles. It is a father-son operation. We do have a couple hired hands. We are 1,200-ish acres, all certified organic. We don't do no conventional acres at this time. We do still have some in transition. We are on this was year number 8 being certified. The unique thing about me or our farm would be two things. We run some a little bit different equipment. We run Fendt tractors and some European style stuff. And also, I did not plan to be organic 8 years ago. We just kind of fell into it when we took over some ground from my now father-in-law.
I appreciate you sharing a little bit of background about your farms. So, the next question I'd like to pose to each of you is why did you decide to go organic? And Levi, you already answered this a little bit just in your last few words there, but could you expand on that a little bit? Why you decided to continue um, with organic farming after coming into that acreage initially?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, my father-in-law had like about 270 acres that was already organic. And he asked me me if I wanted to take over his farm ground, and I was willing to do that. But it was already certified organic, and he was not willing to um, have it go back to conventional. I had to stay organic. And at that time, my dad and me only farmed about 300 acres conventional the way it was. So we thought we'd give it a try. Really enjoyed doing it, like the challenges that came with it, like the gross income per acre that it could, the potential. And then it gave us an opportunity to expand. And like I said, over the last 8 years, we went from 300 conventional, picked that 270 up, and now we're pushing around 1,200. We're in a very, very competitive area where farm ground brings very high rent, very high cost to buy land. So it was a really good avenue for us to take our small farm and be able to grow that way.
Thanks, Levi. Back to Shane. So tell us a little bit why you have organic acreage on your split operation.
I solely took advantage of preventative plant in 2019. In 2018 we had a very wet fall, and I wasn't able to do any strip tilling on our ground. With the strip tilling, I do some custom acres, and I just didn't get back to our ground in time in 2018. And then 2019 turned very wet, and we did preventative plant on all but 3 farms, and just sitting there. I have a neighbor close to me that was organic, and I just started posing some questions before we started spraying it all off, and decided to give it a whirl. And now I certified in 21. So what's this? My 5th year. This will be my 5th year certified, and I'm the same as Levi. Just trying to expand a little bit, see where the revenue on a small farm can come from. If it's any better, I got to get better at growing organic crops before I can say the revenue is any better. But it's been a fun challenge so far. The 2 guys you have on with me have been great help in helping me along the way here.
That's something I hear folks talk about a lot. What motivation for getting into organics is a new challenge and just trying something new that's a little bit different from all the things that come with conventional growing. So appreciate you sharing that, Shane. Now, Jim, I'd like you to kind of follow that same question. You're all organic, so tell us a little bit more about why you decided to go that route.
My dad does commercial hauling, does commercial trucking all over the Midwest, pulling a hopper trailer, hauling all sorts of feed ingredients. And one of the big things that he would haul would be organic grains moving substantial distances rather than corn or soybeans just going to the closest elevator. He would haul it several hundred miles. And with that, he was on different organic farms taking time to talk a little bit to the farmer and get to know them, and with that he saw that there could be potential economically, and just the work of it would maybe fit our farm pretty well. At the time I was 20 years old, and I don't want to say I was completely young and dumb, but boy, it helped being pretty young and naive to the workload that was going to come along with it during the transition. And then the final part was more so than even trying to become certified organic. We tried to cut out the input costs that conventional agriculture comes along with, herbicide, all of that stuff. We figured that whether we made it certified organic or not, if we could cut those costs out, we could at least be competitive. As for our neighborhood, I mean, I don't want to try and one up Levi, but last week the farm right beside my grandma sold for 16,000 an acre, just conventional ground, and so it's really hard to ever see cash flowing that, no matter how good you are, but it is expensive to be in this game, and the organic does help.
So I want each of you to kind of think back. So Shane, you've already mentioned that Prevent Plant is one of the primary ways that you've transitioned some of your land to organic. But for Jim and Levi, I want you to think about those first fields that you transitioned that you actually had to go through the transition process with. So maybe we'll start with Jim since we just finished a question with you. So can you tell us a little bit about the first fields that you transitioned? Like, why did you choose that field? What is a strategy you used to make that work well? And maybe if you could go back and do it again, what might you do differently?
Yeah, Ashley, that's a really good question. And the answer is we transitioned all of our acres at once because, I mean, if you're going to screw it up, you might as well really screw it up. But with that, actually, I was pretty fortunate because, as I mentioned, my dad drove truck full time. And so I was given the opportunity to give this a try. And admittedly, I fell flat on my face the first year and failed really in a miserable, terrible way. But learned a ton that year. And so, shameless plug here, I'm actually a mentor for the top program. And I've shared this recommendation to several folks that if I were going to transition to organic, it's possible that you put it in alfalfa and you bail it off for a couple of years, or like Shane, fallow it, or however it might be. I would really strongly recommend you actually plant soybeans on the cleanest field that you have, the easiest to control the weeds. And then that's in year one. Year two, you are able to plant wheat that fall after the soybeans, harvest that wheat in the following July, and then you're set up for organic corn your first year being certified. And if anyone ever had questions, I can go way more into detail on that. But boy, if you can make it through raising transition soybeans your first year and like not lose your mind and succeed at it, boy, you are really set up for success in this organic world.
Jim, I'll say that is a baptism by fire if I've ever heard it for a transition
What?
strategy.
Yeah, but I was 20 years old, right? Like I was really naive and very fortunate that my dad left for a month literally in the semi truck, and he wasn't there looking over what we did, and if he was here, it would have been life would have been a lot different.
Thanks for sharing that. Levi, do you have anything to kind of dovetail with that, or maybe a different perspective than how Jim took his transition approach?
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of fell into it. So I was already had 270-ish acres that was certified. So I got a year kind of under my belt while still farming some conventional acres. And then when we decided that we were going to do it, we kind of did what Jim said. We jumped all in and we did all of our acres at one time, especially ground that we owned or that we had a longer term contract with. But I'm in a really good spot because about 10 miles south of me is an alfalfa mill. So, like what Jim was saying with the alfalfa thing, we had contracts with them and we would just put it to alfalfa for 3 years. They knew that we were transitioning to organic, so they wouldn't spray it for weevils or anything like that. We would just use our chicken litter or hog manure to side dress that alfalfa. But yeah, we go 3 years of alfalfa. And then we moldboard plow the alfalfa under on year three, and we go to corn that first year. In organic, we kind of have a rule of thumb that corn is king, especially as prices kind of get better with the corn, which we can get to that later. We have transitioned a farm without going to alfalfa. We kind of did something a little bit different with black oats and Australian winter peas. Did that, and then we did some wheat and then clover, and then went to corn its first year. It was just the way that the transition years fell out, and it was a little bit farther away for the alfalfa mill. But yeah, I'd recommend some type of hay program for 2 to 3 years. Try to bail it off or have a contract with an alfalfa mill and suppress some weeds. Uh, Economically, if you can get by with that, you got to do what's best for your operation. If it's do non-GMO beans, find a market with KG Agri Products or somebody that does a non-GMO program, and then a wheat clover or whatever works best for you.
Shane, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your prevent plant acres and kind of what those fields looked like as you decided to go through that transition process. And, what are some of the pitfalls that you ran into when you were dealing with those?
Thank you. So it was a good transition and good learning opportunity, right? So, not having applied any synthetics in 2018, my last synthetic applied was fungicide in August of 2018. So I rolled into 2019 and just when we pulled preventative plant instead of running Roundup, I got on Big Iron and I bought a 36-foot field cultivator. And that was my main weed management for that year. And then around August, we put a seven, or I'm sorry, we we decided to go oats. So we planted oats for a cover crop on all that loose dirt. My ground that I transitioned, the reason this ground was chosen to transition was I owned it. It wasn't with my father or any other family members. They couldn't say no to it. So that's been one of the biggest and hardest was getting dad on board with this, which is why we still haven't transitioned anymore. He's not against it. It's just a lot of workload. So we put oats in it. It was supposed to hold the soil, because my ground was a little rolly going into some bottom ground. And I decided to hold on to those oats till harvest in 2020. And we harvested those oats for our cash crop that year, and then put a 7-way cover crop mix to get ready for the crop the following year that was going to be certified organic. And I think that was the right thing to do given our hard clay. Was I ended up with a very mellow field to
Shane, we have a
tillage
little bit of a
process.
rough connection. You might need to repeat maybe the last 10 seconds or so of what you had just said.
Yeah, give me a second. We're gonna change how we got internet hooked up.
Yep, no worries.
Um, move on. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. So the next thing I kind of want to address, because Shane's touching on it a little bit in his current discussion, is working with certifiers and kind of going through the nuts and bolts of the rules that come with the National Organic Program and becoming certified organic. So I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what it was like working with an organic certifier for the first time. Share whatever you're comfortable with, because I know sometimes it can be a little bit dicey trying to figure out which certifier is the best one to work with and going through fee schedules and that kind of thing. But Levi, I'd be curious to hear about, kind of the first time you started working with an organic certifier. How was that? And any tips for anybody out there listening?
Yeah. So it sounds super scary, organic certification, inspections, paperwork. My first couple years doing it, I was super nervous, super worried about the inspection, super worried about making sure everything was to a T, and as you should be. Um, but at the same time, they're super nice people. They're here to work with you, answer questions. I'm certified with OFA, have been from the very beginning. We ran into some conflict this last year that I think we're going to be able to work it out with just the way that some of the things that they've changed. But I've worked very, very well with them. I've been to multiple of their grain growers meetings that they're at. The Ohio State Conference that's coming up in January, they're always there. Great people to work with. Um, the biggest thing is record keeping. Keep your receipts, keep your field documentation, keep everything to be organized. Don't just keep everything in a shoebox. But that first couple of years, you kind of get the hang of it. It is a decent amount of paperwork that first year, 15 pages. Then every year after that, it's just renewal paperwork. It's just what have you changed on your farm? Are you doing any different nutrient practices? Are you using anything different than you normally do? If not, it's a very pretty simple process. But shop around, talk to OFA, OnMark. There's multiple organic certifiers. Find the best fit for you. Find somebody that you can communicate well with, that answer your questions, or maybe somebody that you know personally. But they're here to help. They're not here to make sure that if you're I don't want to say it that way, but they're here to help you. They're not here to make you not be certified. They're here to make sure that your answers are answered and that they're helping you in the best way that they can.
Jim, do you want to pick up where Levi's left off there and share a little bit of your experience with that?
Yes, and so the only difference I have is I am certified through MOSA out of Wisconsin, and very similar experience. They really do want you to succeed. One important point is that the when you go through the inspection process, the inspector comes out and looks everything over, and you have to drive through to every field, and you have to visually show what's going on. And they can't say yes or no. They only can write a report that goes back to your certifying agency. Your organic inspection is really just a double check that what you have put in your paperwork, like Levi said, you have initial paperwork and then annual updates. You are just confirming that that's accurate. And so you'll want to have all of your paperwork in order, every receipt, every piece of seed tag. And then the last part is we're really fortunate to have camera phones that like can take pictures of exactly what's going on at any moment in time. And those pictures are worth more than 1,000 words to your organic inspector.
Thanks, Jim. I can really echo what both of you have said. In my experience working at Purdue and managing our certification paperwork for a couple properties out here, having that camera phone is a huge deal, especially when you're working with multiple people on one operation, trying to all kind of work toward the same goal. So, Shane, I want to bring it back to you. So, we were discussing your prevent plant acres and kind of some of the challenges with that. But when you're kind of satisfied with that topic, I'd love to hear your perspective on working with a certifier as well. So I'll just let you kind of take it where you left off.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. Um, yeah, so my ground's a little rolly, and that's the reason I ran with the uh rye for my preventative plant into my second year of transition. I was going to terminate the rye, but I decided to hold on to it as a cash crop. And that way I could get in sooner with a 7-way cover crop to help the tilth of the soil, given we were going to start working ground a whole lot more than we have in the past, transitioning from strip till for about 12 years prior to that. And I feel like that was a good choice. The first couple of years that I had soybeans on it the first year, the whole entire farm, and I've never seen a farm work as well as it did with the cover crops. So I've kind of stuck with that as I went. Um, and after that, we had to find a way to split this one field of 120 acres into three separate fields, which it intentionally was supposed to be through this transition. And so we got a little creative with some cover crops in between soybeans so that we were growing green and growing another crop. And it took us about 3 years before we finally got our first corn crop. And like Levi said, corn's king, so I wish I'd have started with corn, but I didn't. But we had a fantastic soybean crop that first year. And given our uh, fungicide application was in August of 2018, I was able to certify already in 21. Like August 14th, I think we certified the farm so I could harvest certified that following year. So we basically had a fallow year with a rye cover crop, harvested that as actually a cash crop, went to another cover crop, 7 way, and then a soybean crop. So that's how we transitioned.
Very good. And then would you share with us kind of what your experience working with a certifier was like?
Yeah, so I'm also with OFA. I went with OFA just because my neighbor mentor that was helping me through, that was the agency that he used. And I don't believe she's there, but there's a wonderful girl by the name of Julia. I think it was Julia Barton. She was very pleasurable in the transition. Anytime I had questions, like Levi said, it's very daunting. As you're going through this process, you don't want to screw it up. You spent, so much time giving up potential, revenue to get to this point, and you don't want to mess anything up. I'll also tap on what Jim said, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So with me still being conventional, on part of the farm and organic on the other, I literally take pictures of when I'm washing out the planter. I'll pull off the seed units. I'll show that I'm out there with the pressure washer, washing them out, blowing them out. Documentation is key. So like I have checklists that I sign off, or whoever does it signs off to make sure that everything was done to a T the way it should be. And I've never had an issue with them questioning whether it was done properly, giving them pictures and proper documentation.
So, Shane, a question I want to ask kind of related to your split operation. How do you have your on-farm storage set up, if any? I know there's multiple ways to approach that, so I'd be curious to hear how you're doing it.
Um, so there's only one bin that every so often we'll use the grain dryer for the conventional corn, and then after we're done with the conventional corn, it gets completely swept out, cleaned, and photo verified that it was cleaned. And I'll usually send those pictures to the certifier, and they give me the thumbs up, and we utilize that same equipment to clean out an auger. I just run wood shavings through the auger. I'll go buy a $3 or $7, I don't know how much it costs, a bale of wood shavings for like horses, and just run the whole thing all the way through the auger and call it good.
Appreciate that. I'm gonna jump to another question that is kind of related to organic transition um, challenges. So I'd be curious to know from each of you kind of what was the most challenging part of this transition process? And I think we're gonna throw it back to Jim for this one.
The most challenging part of transitioning to organic is forgetting what you've known for so long if you're a conventional farmer, okay? And I would there are so many different aspects to it, but the best comparison I can give you is that when I was in college, I took calculus. And could I teach you any calculus now? No. But it was unlike anything I had ever done before. There were numbers and there was stuff, but there was so much problem solving, unlike anything I had ever done before. And the day after you finish planting your first organic crop or organically managed crop, every bit of problem solving you have is gonna test you in ways that you've never had before, and so changing that mindset completely of how to manage this crop is something it's really hard to be prepared for unless you've talked to lots of people that have warned you.
Levi, let's take that question to you next.
Yeah, so I guess like the number one thing people when people think about organic and challenges, they're gonna think of weed control. Which is I would say nutrient and weed control are the two biggest challenges. But when it comes to transitioning, I just had this conversation that I'm with somebody that I'm kind of mentoring right now, is setting yourself up for success during the transition years. So he's transitioning, he's got wheat and he's got put wheat in this last fall, and he didn't have time to get his chicken litter out beforehand, which is kind of a bad start to begin with. And then he called me up today, actually this morning, and want to know this spring about only putting maybe like 1 ton of chicken litter on because he wants to cut back on inputs to try to be more profitable. And I kind of explained to him why that would be a bad idea in my mind is don't deplete your soils. And then come first year of organic, I think you just need to hurry up and load it all back up. Be successful during them transition periods. Keep your soil health, keep maintaining your yields or building towards your goals. Don't just take them 3 years and think of, well, I'm just going to lose money already. So let's just lose a bunch or let's just kind of skip by where we can. Stay driven, try to be as successful as you can, high yielding crops as best as you possibly can. Um, don't take them years off and try to keep pushing forward. Make them as best as they can, and the better the crops are going to be, the less weed pressure you're going to have. I'm really focused on keeping weeds from going the seed. Set that first year up as organic if you're going to corn or if you're going to beans, like Jim says. That first year when you hit the ground running, we kind of call them honeymoon stages. You know, them first couple of years of organic should be super clean, very good crops, make decent amount of revenue, and get off to a really good start.
And Shane, we'll bring it back to you.
Um, um, so since I didn't have the proper transition, kind of like others do, I think what I would say was the most challenging part is learning to get away from how uh you do it conventionally, right? And let's just use soybeans. I I had a two of the fields, so it was like 75 acres of soybeans side by side. Um, but what it started out with was sunflowers and soybeans. And after I planted both of those the same day. And after we planted, we got a huge rain. It seems like since I've been transitioning, every time I plant, I get like 6 inches of rain. So it's been really hard. So I ended up the stand wasn't good enough on the sunflowers to continue, so I wiped out that whole entire crop and replanted soybeans. But I only went back in with my planter. I have a fairly nice planter with electric meters, so I could leave the planter in the ground and I shifted over my RTK by like 3 inches so that I wasn't running over the original plants. And I was just flipping the switch on and off when I was going through dead spots. Well, having that 3.5 inch or 4 inch gap in between just let the weeds thrive. So I learned at that point that I can't go in and spot in like I do conventionally because the sunflower field that I wiped the whole entire thing over and started over did 20 bushel to the acre better than the soybean field right next to it. And it was just a management mess. I won't call it weedy mess. I just couldn't get close enough. I couldn't properly manage the two separate planting dates at the same time. And so the toughest part is learning like I can't act like I would conventionally when I'm dealing with a organic crop. I have to wipe everything out or at least spots of everything out. And I say that with a grain of salt because I turned around and did that this year with a cornfield. And I was too late for the corn, and so I should have switched crops and just like squared off a field and ended up going to like a soybean crop or something else after that. So that's the toughest part is changing your mentality from what I'll call easy with the conventional side of it to a more management style.
I appreciate it. Sounds each of you have a common thread there, talking a little bit about management and trying to get away from traditional mindset. So I appreciate you highlighting that for us. I do want to dive into the marketing side a little bit. Um, this is something that is, in addition to weed management and nutrient management, is often cited as a really major challenge and a major hurdle for folks who are curious about organic transition, but maybe haven't taken that step yet. Shane, I'd be curious to hear about during those transition years, and each of you have kind of touched on this a little bit, but just a little bit more information about how you approach the marketing side of things, and maybe how are you continuing to evolve your marketing strategy as you're moving forward and getting more certified years under your belt.
Um, so my transition, the rye just went for seed. What didn't get sold for seed went to feed. And then my very first year that I transitioned, uh, Cargill had a program that if you were over 100 acres, uh, they would buy the acres instead of they would contract the acres instead of the bushels. So I didn't have to try and guess on how many bushels I was going to make, going into this new venture, right? So I was able to just contract it off for X dollars, the whole entire farm. So it made my marketing very easy. Um, but after that, when I broke it up into three fields, and they don't have that program anymore, unfortunately, at least not that I'm aware of. They it all comes down to I don't really market because I'm able to hold what I have. So I see what I have and then I'll market after. So I haven't done a lot of forward marketing. It's all after harvest style marketing. And then it's just asking around. The community is great on asking people what prices are, where it's going. If somebody gets a good bid, most of the time they'll holler out to their close neighbors and friends.
I feel like those acres contracts are fewer and farther between than they were within the last 5 to 10 years when we were really booming with organic transition hype there for a while. So glad you were able to take advantage of that early on, though. I'll send it over to Jim for a little bit of marketing talk with you.
So during the transition to organic, and I would recommend this to anyone looking at it, there are plenty of non-GMO soybean programs out there, whether it be food grade or just regular standard feed grade non-GMO programs to pay a premium that you can capitalize during the transition. And that's that was a big part of what we did. At the time, the non-GMO soybeans were paying a $2.50 a bushel premium, right? And I don't remember exactly what the marketplace was doing in 2016 conventionally, but $2.50 is a pretty big premium on any dollar amount soybean. So that was really helpful during the transition. Since since we've become certified, there are only so many organic buyers, but the big thing is they can also only take so many bushels in the fall. And so when you start talking about marketing and more importantly, grain storage, sure, grain storage is expensive, but especially in organic marketplace, it pays for itself very quickly. The return on investment is massive. The other part is that my farm has put up some hopper cone bins to keep specific identity preserved grains separated from one another. The hopper cone bins are only 3,300 bushels each, but I'm never going to fill 100,000 bushel corn bin, right? It's just not part of my operation. I will fill, three different 3,300 bushel bins with different commodities to keep them separated for a specific purpose.
And Levi, tell us a little bit about your strategy.
Yeah, so for the guys that know me that I worked with for years, I love the marketing side of it. That's like I guess my key role as our farm is owned by me and my dad. The marketing thing is solely my job. To piggyback off the other guys, yeah, if you can get into a non-GMO program, if you're going to do the row crop thing for transitioning. There is actually more buyers out there than probably what you think there is. That's when people talk to me about organic stuff. That one of the things that is like, well, who buys your grain? Well, within the last probably 3 years, there is a good amount of organic buyers, especially in Northwest Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania. There is more organic buyers out there than what you think there are. If you're not sure of who to contact, work with your certifier. Uh, Look me up on our farm up on Facebook or me up on Facebook. I will talk with you and help you out if you're in my area. But yeah, grain storage is key, like Jim said. It's super hard to do organic without storage. There's very few people take grain out of the field, and if they do, it has to come out of the field dry. Which soybeans and wheat maybe not quite so hard, but corn is hard to get it under that 15.5 percent moisture. Be able to haul it into the field, but yeah, there's good non-GMO programs out there if you get into a hayfield program, something like that. Um, but yeah, marketing's for me, it's super fun. I'm sure the buyers don't like me calling them every month or every couple of weeks to see where prices are at, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy sharing the data. I don't keep it for myself. I give it to our chapter grain growers meeting that we meet in the wintertime a couple times. I think once a month for the next couple months. We share it at the Ohio State Grain Conference. We don't keep it a secret. Everything's we don't. Jim and Shane will agree that we don't have it 100% figured out. We're still learning every time, so we are open books. We're willing to help and share if it comes to marketing or weed control or whatever. We're happy to help.
Levi, I feel like you're a bit of a rare breed. I talk to a lot of guys who are just like, man, marketing is not my thing. They really like the production
I
side.
love
So
it.
kind of
I
cool to
love it.
talk to somebody who enjoys it.
Yeah.
So, a question I want to, we'll start to wrap up here a little bit. We got about 15 minutes left in our hour this evening. So, I will turn it over to Brian in case Brian has any questions at the end. But something that I kind of want to wrap up with is what's been kind of the biggest benefit or your favorite thing about your organic acres? What's the biggest benefit of having some acres that you've transitioned to? uh, it, throughout your farming career. So I'm gonna hand it to Shane for that one to get that started.
The biggest benefit is more time in the field with the kids. I mean, we all do this because we want to do it. So if you strip till in the fall, plant in the spring, spray twice, and harvest, um, I guess you get more time to go to the lake house if you want, but I don't have a lake house, so I'm just gonna work instead. But no, it's also a benefit to be challenged for me. I do like seeing what I can do better. It's also come with its downfalls. I mean, the first couple of years were fantastic, and the last couple of years, like I said, I've had some learning lessons. One of them key being I was putting 2 tons of chicken litter in front of every crop, and after I scratched my head and got a little smart about it, I started putting 4 tons in front of the corn to utilize the nitrogen, and the leftover fertilizer will be there for the beans the next year. So it's just being able to troubleshoot, learn. The community has also been a benefit. I I lean on Levi a lot. He's helped get me through some really troublesome springs. I'm also kind of following his footsteps on some of the European style farming, at least some of the tooling that we use that way, because we have transitioned in the United States to being more with a sprayer versus more with a proper soil management. And so just the benefits of getting to see different types of equipment, processes, and problem solving, really. And money. It's a huge benefit. It-
You got to make some money to stay in business, so I think that's important to remember.
right?
Levi, we'll throw it to you next.
Yeah, so biggest benefit for us, I know it's gonna sound like kind of cliche, is getting to meet you four people. Without the organic thing, the organic thing is such a weird concept for agriculture because for me, it's the amount of friends that I made over the last 7, 8 years. Some of my best friends that I talked to, these guys. I talked to my buddy Doug down in Plain City, the Leopold brothers over here in Glandorf. So many people that I talk to every day, I've only met them through the organic farming thing. And I can call any single one of these guys that I just mentioned and ask them for advice or ask them to borrow a piece of equipment or anything, and it's a yes. They'll bring it to me, or I come pick it up, and it's never, well, how much are you going to pay me? Or it's not about the money. It's about all of us learning to do this together and trying to figure out maybe something that works for all of us, like the European farming style, or doing this, or maybe I'm plowing too much. Maybe I need to go more towards high speed disc. What works for them might not work for us, but we're all working together. Like talking about the marketing thing. Some people don't like talking about that stuff, but when it comes time to sell, they don't know where the grain markets are. So maybe they reach out to me and I let them know who's contracting at what prices, and then I call them for something else related. And like Shane said, I love the challenge of it. I love seeing if I can beat my conventional neighbors. And I've done it before, and I've not done it before. So I love the challenges of it. Obviously, with the better yields and stuff that I get and the better prices, it's worked great for our family. Dollar wise, it's been able to help our farm be able to grow into what it was from 8 years ago, the type of equipment that we were using to the type of equipment and size that we are now. Um, but putting that to the side, I mean, I love the people that I've met and the friendships that I've gained over the few years doing it. And that's why anybody transitioning, I highly recommend reaching out to people, finding other organic farmers, going to conferences. There's conferences all over the United States every year. Like I keep bringing up the Ohio State one because it's coming up in 3 weeks. This is only their third, fourth year, maybe doing it, something like that. Fourth year, yeah, it's fantastic. I know Purdue does a bunch of things, like we were just out at Mike's sites. There's fantastic things that go on all the time that people don't probably even know happens, especially transitional guys. I don't think they really understand how big the organic industry is getting and how many people are doing it and how open-minded everybody is to talk to each other. But if you're transitioning, you really need to take advantage of that stuff because I've learned 99% of everything I know through other farmers. So it's been great.
And then Jim, your biggest benefit from organic transition.
So I got to build off Levi a little bit here. So in the last couple of weeks, I saw a video, and an older farmer was talking about what his grandfather taught him, and he said that when wheat threshing get-togethers went away, that's when farming fell apart. And what he meant by that is when everyone had to help their neighbor go for wheat threshing, and there'd be 15 or 20 guys get together in the summer, and the threshing machine would move from one farm to the other. Everyone had to get along with each other, and if you were a jerk to someone, well, your wheat wasn't going to get threshed. And so, boy, hearing Levi talk about it, I mean, this organic thing, I'm not driving down to Levi's place for wheat harvest, right? If anything, Levi's built like a linebacker, and I want him coming up to my place to shovel wheat. But the community here is really, really good, and a couple of my closest friends are just farmer friends, and so it's really incredible what all the organic community has taught me, and how we come together. But if I wasn't farming organically, I wouldn't be farming. And I say that because the profit margin in organic allows me to be a full-time farmer. And I've got a couple other little things that I do, but I'm a full-time farmer. If I was farming conventionally, and I could introduce you to a dozen people in the community that have their full-time job and then farm nights and weekends, and I do not enjoy farming enough to come out here after working from 8 to 5 and try and fiddle around and fix a combine and battle through harvest or try and plant a crop nights and weekends. I have no interest in it. The organic thing allows me to be a full-time farmer. And lastly, it's really enjoyable. Like the problem solving that comes along with it. All three of us have talked extensively about how the problem solving comes along with the organic farming. I mentioned earlier trying to forget everything you knew about conventional agriculture because the problem solving that goes into organic agriculture, it's very different, but boy is it rewarding.
Appreciate y'all sharing that. It's encouraging to hear each of you kind of highlight similar aspects of why you enjoy being in this space. And I think the community aspect is absolutely huge because even as ag professionals, I think Brian and I both have seen that the organic community is really enjoyable to work with. And like you said, folks are just really willing to share. So it's a rewarding for us as well, kind of being on the other side and being on the ag professional side of this. So, just real quick, I wanted to give Brian an opportunity to maybe ask like a final question or so before we have a few closing remarks. So, Brian, do you have anything you want to ask the group?
I think you probably answered on that last question, but if I was thinking this before that, but what is the one thing, if somebody's thinking about going organic, what is the one thing that you would, first thing or top thing you would recommend for them to look into or do to get started?
Find a Levi. But really, you need you need a mentor. I shouldn't say mentor. You need somebody to help you through. So find some guys that have done it for a handful of years. Some guys that have been through some challenges. Like I've been through the challenges. Like I've been through the ringer with this. So I'm happy to help. I'm not out of it yet. I don't plan on being out of it, but the challenges have also been the reason why it's not all been transitioned yet. You know, if I was doing as bad across all my acres, um, I probably would be out of it. So, find a Levi. I say dip your toe in, kind of learn a little bit, before you go gung ho. But on the other hand, I can see why these guys went all in too.
Yeah, Shane, I was gonna hop on and say, man, just call Levi. He's got all the answers. It's just talk to Levi. It's easy, man. It's nothing to it. Just call Levi. But actually, after you talk to a Levi or whoever's in the community, and I guarantee if you try, you can find someone in your community that's organic and can give you insight, and then go talk to your finance folks and double run stuff past the bank because there's a couple tough years ahead of you too. So have a plan there.
I mean, I've spent most of my time on cover crops and conservation tillage, and it's kind of the same thing. You try to find that mentor. But another question I've got, I think we got a couple minutes yet, is I know I've been worked with one farmer that has uh, they've kind of split up the operation and because the dad just I mean, was the pressure of dealing with the neighbors complaining about the weeds and all those things was too much. So, I mean, it's does that bother you guys or do you have that issue with your neighbors or?
I think part of that comes with like, I guess it kind of ties in with that last question. What I was going to say is having a plan. Know if you're wanting to get into this, think about the future. Think about what you're going to do on year one, year two, year three. Do your homework as far as like who you're going to market it to, grain, stuff like that. But part of having a plan needs to be what you're going to do about your weed control. Um, talk with other guys, do your research on what you can do to prevent them weeds. There's so much newer technology with the weed zappers, the weed flamers, the new tine meters that have coming out, the plowing. that we do. Cover crops using different ways to suppress weeds. Don't make the weeds be an issue. Do I personally care what my neighbors think? Absolutely not. I really, really don't. Um, I don't. I really don't have any issues with my neighbors. I've had one year where the co-op had some drift and killed some of my crops, where I had an issue with them. Not it wasn't weed related. Um, but don't get into it. I'm going to say this because I've seen both sides of it. I know Jim and Shane have both seen both sides of it. If you're going to do it right. When some people think about organic, they picture a bean field full of weeds. That's what they think of. And don't be that person. Really strive to be driving by when your neighbors are driving by your field. They don't even know it's organic. I know it seems hard to do, and it is hard to do, but have that mindset to where you're going to be that precise and you're going to be that good at it. Don't make the weeds be an issue. Really strive to have them clean fields. And I mean, I drive by my conventional neighbors all the time, and in Northwest Ohio, we have a big giant ragweed problem in conventional fields that we don't have. And I think the flamers and the propane burners in our corn and with plowing um, have done a great job on that to where I don't see our fields being an issue. And like I said, I don't care what my neighbors think because some of them are super into the organic things, think it's really cool. They ask a lot of questions, and I guess the ones that don't like it don't talk to me, so that's okay.
I run custom weed zapping also, and I just keep tally of how many actual conventional acres I go across every year. So when somebody starts giving me a bunch of crap, I say, well, I just did 100 acres of conventionals to get rid of so and so weed or this and that. So, yeah, I really don't care. They can talk all they want. I guess the bank account's what answers the question.
Yeah, if I could, so almost best case scenario, my 30 feet of end rows right along the road is pretty weedy because then when the neighbor drives by, he's like, oh, this organic thing, I wouldn't want to try that. And then I'll just keep selling my $10 a bushel organic corn while he, struggles with his market. So I'm pretty good with it. I've never had anyone say that it was too weedy. If anything, folks have said, wow, I'm actually amazed you can do as well as you can. And I got another friend who makes me look like an amateur. This guy has some of the best organic fields. Got to be in the whole country, so it can be done.
I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. I really appreciate your time, you guys. It's been a fun conversation. And I just want to throw this out there for anybody who's listening and maybe watching this recording later. If you want to meet a Levi of your own or somebody like Levi or any of these three guys, I would encourage you to attend any one of the conferences that's going on throughout the Midwest, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio. Everybody's got an organic event to go to. And Ohio State just so happens to have the next one coming up January 7th and 8th, 2026. I will be there, so I hope to see some of you there as well. Um, I have been honored to be part of the planning committee for this event the last couple of years. Eric Reeker over there at Ohio State is doing a great job with the organic grain community. And it's been a real pleasure to work with those folks. I'm excited to continue to do that. And then the Indiana event, the Indiana Organic Grain Farmer Meeting, is coming up February 18th, 2026 at the Beck Center in West Lafayette. So just real close to Purdue's campus here. You'll see Brian and I there through the Indiana Organic Network, which helps support that event. So encourage all of you to just consider where you can go this winter. It's not always fun to travel to Midwestern locations in the wintertime, but it is worth it if you can make it happen. So again, thank you guys for your good conversation this evening. I am going to go ahead and stop this recording.